Okay, so we got the Darius boiler. Indirect tank is working. They have hot water. Their heat, however, is not working. And I am suspect that it is the boiler circulator. However, I'm working on covering this up for right now because the trap isn't primed. It's just dumping exhaust gases, which is nuts. And I did pick up 1 part per million on carbon monoxide, but that's it. This unit's in rough shape. Okay, so when the heating zones are calling and this tank is satisfied, the circulator is coming on, has good power, good amp draw. The system was giving a CO error, which is a pressure sensor communication failure. And I reset it just now, and now it was coming up H7P07, which is that the pressure is at 7. So I know for a fact our pressure is at 20, around 20, because I have a gauge on there. There's no other external gauge on this system. But for it to be reading an inaccurate pressure and then an inconsistent pressure reading, and as well as having a communication error, I'm going to lean more towards that sensor is failing rather than the control board. Regardless, we know that that sensor is wrong because it's giving the wrong reading, but I doubt that the control is actually failing to communicate. I think it's on the sensor side. As it runs, you can see how much we're going up, but 20, 25 on our pressure. We are circulating heat on both zones. Let's see, we have a flame in that sight glass and that mirror, but there's some things I'd like to address, and that's this corrosion here. This air separator is gonna need to be replaced because it's actively dripping. It's wet. Somebody recently replaced this trap about a year ago. I would like to get a more solid connection into the... Ooh, this is full. No, it's not full. It's just heavier. But I'd like to put a more solid connection here, maybe a Fernco into the water, just so it's not dumping exhaust gases when it's not primed. I'm not sure why it's not primed. I know it's been off for some time, but it probably doesn't condense all that much running at such a high temperature. But right now they have heat, and hopefully that continues because that's a part that we're gonna have to get, or maybe the homeowner will end up ordering. But the system also needs full service. It needs to be cleaned, and there's some gaskets that need to be replaced in the process of that. You can see to pull this panel off right there and this one off right here to clean it out, which I doubt has ever been done. But yeah, that's where we're at so far. This heat exchanger was made in 2009, so it's not terribly old. But they've only had this home for 1 year, so they don't know much about the history of it. Pressure is still at 25. We're climbing up past 26. So, definitely going to be a sensor issue. Okay, so Peter is able to get me this pressure sensor, and I confirmed with a local rep, like the guy in charge of tech support for Bosch, and he did say it's going to be pressure sensor. So Peter's going to run the pressure sensor here. Customer approved the pricing and everything. While I'm waiting, I did just do a combustion analysis. I'm going to get the cover for the unit stickered and labeled. I'll button up this circulator again, and I'll get it all set up. I'll drain my pressure out. That way I could change the sensor in and out. It is weird that there is no tridicator gauge built in, but oh well. Get rid of this jumper now too, because he has the thermostats calling. And then as far as everything else, it looks like we'll probably address some things more towards the summertime. Yeah, so we should be able to get it up and running today. Okay, here's our new sensor. Power is shut down. So, I'm going to hook this up and isolate our boiler manifold. I'll be taking the pressure out of this heating loop for the tank as well as the heating loop for the boiler. Should not have to drain it fully. Depends on if that air vent up there is cooperative. If it's corroded and sealed shut, then I shouldn't have to drain it fully. Yep, just a little drip. And when I pop the sensor out, it'll just it'll suck through that way, and I won't have water coming in. It'll be pulling in air and draining out through there. It should. So I'll pull out this clip here. Then I can pull this out. I'll need both hands, but I'll pop the new one in. So that was nice and easy in and out. Pop the clip back into place. Here's our old one. I just shut our drain valve, opened up these valves, it all repressurized. Now when we power it on, it should read the accurate pressure. And let's see, P19, which is probably about right because I took some pressure out. And it's not starting off at a low number, but a good sign was that it showed temperature immediately rather than P, O, whatever, and H7. So, nice and easy. Was able to get this homeowner up and running in the same day. Okay, got the cover on. Sometimes that's the hardest part of the whole job, is getting these covers back on. Our latch here is broken, as well as our latch up there. And our display does not lock into place. Tried a bunch of different ways, but it's not staying, so it is what it is. It's still sealed. Can get our Taco cover back on. Let's see. There we go. So, nice. We're returning heat, and we are also sending heat to our indirect tank. So, we are all set. Take a look at this house too. Weird blue castle. Okay, so that one was nice. It's nice to have the gentleman Tim Warnicki from Platsky.
Go past the stop sign. Then at the next one.
He's always super helpful. Answers texts like immediately. Sends pictures. He like knows all the part numbers off the top of his head. So that made it nice and simple. But that was it for that call. Now I am headed towards New Hyde Park. I was at a house that had a leaking air valve on a radiator. I replaced that air valve, let the system run, and then another radiator shutoff valve started leaking. I tried to tighten it, but it didn't make a difference, so I replaced that shutoff valve, as well as I replaced the air valve on that radiator. And it says recall radiator valve leaking. I don't know if that's the air valve. I don't know if it's the angle valve. The pressure control was shutting the system off at pressure, I believe. Or it wasn't even building up much pressure. I don't recall which one, but I wrote it down. We'll see what happens. Maybe I just didn't tighten the angle valve tight enough. I don't know. Actually, one of those air valves, I did have to rethread the tapping on the radiator. It was completely stripped out. So hopefully it's not related to that, because that would stink. Yeah, not sure what I would do if that was the case. Okay, so here is that steam boiler. And the issue is it's overfilling with water, and it's actually filling up all the steam piping, and it started spraying water, not steam. They've been draining it regularly, but this valve, I'm pretty sure is passing, because if I open with these two closed, you can hear it. So I cut the line, and you could see the valve's off, but it's still running water, and that's what's overfilling the boiler. Okay, so here is the new ball valve and half-inch press coupling. Just wiping all this water away to make sure that there's no new water leaking. And we are looking good. And I just had them turn the boiler on because I want to make sure nothing happens while I'm here for the hour. Okay, so here's the old valve, and this is the actual ball, the shutoff valve. When it's closed, it faces this way. When it's open, it faces this way. And here is one of the gaskets, and you could see on it all that scoring, and that scoring is where water will pass through. And then you could see that this is heavily corroded, and that's what probably caused the scoring. And this little indent here is where the valve actually meets with it. And if you look in here, you could see that scoring right there. So that is why this valve was passing water. I just think it's cool to see things taken apart. And then there's this packing nut, which goes right up there before the handle, because there's another seal right there, which stops water from leaking out from the handle. We're running right now. We are making steam, no pressure yet. The pigtail is clear. I know that. I cleared it out last time. And we'll just wait and see what happens, make sure nothing starts leaking. Okay, so the boiler did just shut off at pressure, and it's reading 5, which is high, which I'll let them know. I just wanted to see if I could figure out maybe if there's anything else going on. Like if maybe there's a wet return clogging issue too. But everything seems to be running normally so far. Boiler still has water in it. So we'll just have to wait and see. They're paying for an hour, so I'll be here for a little bit longer to give them that full value to make sure everything's running okay. So I didn't include this in the video, but part of the issue, I think, with why they built up pressure so quickly is because of the fact that this boiler used to heat their whole home, but at some point they switched to the second floor being heated by baseboards, which go to a water heater, as well as the basement. So quite a few radiators were eliminated from the system. The boiler was probably oversized anyway, but now it's probably insanely extra oversized. So I think that's why it built up to 5 psi so quickly. And I'm also pretty certain that this boiler has been filling with water has had this valve passing water for a good amount of time, because their radiators and the air valves have been leaking so much steam, like a lot of steam. When I was there to fix that, they were leaking. And I think because of leaking that steam, they didn't notice the boiler overfilling because that water was being used as leaked steam. Okay, so I finished up with that, made them aware of the pressure issue. It's too high. what can happen as a result of that. And they
Turn left, then turn
they
right
don't
onto
want to
Hillside
address
Avenue.
that right
At
now.
the stop sign, turn right onto Howard Avenue.
I
Then
guess
turn right onto Hillside Avenue.
Costs money, and I already spent a decent amount on it. But I am headed to my next call now, which is a Mitsubishi system, not heating. It heats for 5 minutes and then it stops. My guess is a refrigerant issue, but we'll see. The people in the house were super happy that I showed them like the actual valve and why it failed, because they like didn't understand it. And I guess I'd hate to be a homeowner and not understand what the problem is and whether or not it's actually going to be fixed. So now they could be sure that now the boiler won't overfill. But yeah, we'll see with the next call what happens. So here is the unit, and it's a Fujitsu, thankfully, not a Mitsubishi. I just turned the unit on in heating, set for 88 degrees. What's happening is like it'll run for a little bit and work, and then it stops working. Now, it completely stops blowing, or it just blows cold?
No, it'll continue. It'll blow. It just so in the summer when it was humid, it would blow, but the air would get very humid and not cool.
Okay.
So it's almost as if the cooling part of it stopped.
Okay.
You know.
But the heating part stopped as well.
Yeah. But I primarily used it for cooling. You know, at that point I just turned it off.
Okay. Let's get that model and serial number.
And then I took the filters out thinking it was that. And then the other thing I did is I took compressed air and tried to blow out the drainage line.
Oh,
Then
okay.
there's a pan up there, right?
Yeah, there is.
And
But that would just leak if there was a problem with that.
okay, because I know in the instructions it said that if there's a blockage, it'll shut the compressor down.
No, this won't.
Okay.
It'll just leak down your wall and be a nightmare. But I'm gonna take a look outdoors, see what's happening, if anything. Okay. So it's running, and it's blowing very cold air, it feels like. Our temperature outside today is roughly 53. Let's see what temperature we are blowing out. See if our coil's dirty too. It's pinned up against the wall really tight. That's not good. The coil doesn't look filthy. We'll see what temperature we start to drop to. It feels very cold to me. Maybe it's not all that much colder than ambient, just because it's blowing. And we'll feel our lines here. We're like lukewarm and cold. Getting warmer. Let's take our thermal imaging camera out. Sorry. Outdoor unit information. And what do we got? 70 or so degrees on the suction, which is the discharge.
As you can see, the filters weren't.
Yeah,
dirty.
those aren't bad. I mean, they're dirty, but they're not to the point that they'd stop anything.
Yeah.
See
To
anything.
be honest, I had a hard time putting them back in.
Yeah, I'll put them back in for you.
The bottom.
Yeah,
is
we're
like-
not really getting
like that 'cause
hot.
I tried pulling it down to see if there was water.
Yeah, you have the screws for it?
I do.
Okay. It's probably going to be a refrigerant issue because it sounds like your compressor's running and it sounds like the fan's running.
So you think it's low or it's
Yeah, so if it's low on refrigerant, that means that there's a leak. Because refrigerant can't just disappear, it's a sealed system.
Yep. When you see oil though?
So in some cases you'll see oil, other cases you won't.
Okay.
The right way to fix it would be to fix the leak.
Of
But
course.
to fix the leak, you need to find the leak, and sometimes that's pretty involved as far as labor and time. Because it could
Such
be,
is so short, might as well replace the whole line.
it could be anywhere though, because you have
Oh, it could be in the
all this
coil
coil
itself,
here.
that's
It could be
right.
all the coil outside. Typically, where it is in my experience is it's either the line sets themselves are leaking, because a certain manufacturer of line sets, they all started to leak. I don't know why, but it
Maybe
is.
it's the same one he uses in their heat exchangers.
Oh, I gotta bleep that out now.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. They'll know what you. I'll bleep it out, but they're still gonna know what you said. The other location where it tends to be is at the flare connections where the lines are connected.
Okay.
So I'll check the obvious places.
Okay.
Another route that we can go, which is frowned upon for ductless units, is adding the refrigerant, but adding sealant as well. Now, it's frowned upon because there are small lines and small electronic expansion valves. They're just small valves that move in the unit for control of the refrigerant. The sealant can plug those up and prevent them from operating properly.
The valves for moving.
Yeah. I have yet to ever experience that in the times that I have used it, but it is something that manufacturers say to avoid with their. They say not to use it at all.
So it's like when you fill a tire, you use that stuff.
Yeah, it's similar to that.
Yeah.
The way that it actually works is that stuff will stay liquid in the refrigerant until it comes in contact with air,
Yeah, makes sense.
where it makes the seal.
So whatever you suggest, man. I'm the type of guy, I want to do things the right way. So you're the boss, I'm the boss.
I'd always like to do things the right way too. It's just a matter of cost.
Gotcha.
Refrigerant, I'll go over the pricing. This customer is a longtime subscriber of Mike. And I took a look at the refrigerant connections. I don't see any evidence of oil. And I pulled off like the cover to check the connections at the indoor unit, the ones that go up against the wall. So right now I'm going to get an electronic leak detection, see if I can pick anything up. But this is the line set that is, in our experience, known for leaks. This is the leak detector I've been using. I like it a lot. I have a couple others, but this one has always worked for me. I've always been able to find the leak and fix it, so this is the one I use. It's loud when you start it up, but as it clears out, it will slowly start to beep, and then I can put that little nozzle against all the connections that may or may not be leaking to see if we can find it. The nice thing about running it in heat pump is the pressure is going to be higher, so it'll show us where the leak may be. So after some unsuccessful leak detection, the customer decided that for now we'll just go with adding refrigerant. I know you're supposed to add by weighing in, and it takes a lot more time and money to do that. So I'm doing this based off of ways that Mitsubishi has actually told me to do it, as well as a technician from Fujitsu, where you can add until you get specific temperatures. But obviously you don't want to overcharge, so you have to be very careful. I'm at 1 pound and 8 ounces. And if we come in now, you could see we're blowing some nice hot air. For now, I think leaving it here is best, because this is a huge difference. And then as far as for cooling, we're not going to be able to get it to run in cooling because of the low temperature, but we'll see how that is in the summertime. Let me try. I can try the forced cooling operation. I'll try that just to see if we could get it to run in cooling. Get a better idea of where the pressures are. So we'll go to mode. Cool. Lower the temperature. This you need to press for more than 10 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, just to be safe. There we go. Now we're in, should be forced cooling operation, so the coil should get colder. And then our outdoor unit should run once our pressures are okay to run. I am hooked up to the common suction line, so see what happens. Okay, so we're running and cooling. We'll see what happens with our evaporator coil temperature, where we're at as the system runs, but pretty confident that we're gonna be okay here. Okay, so I'm finished up here. I got caught up in like a lot of long conversation with the homeowner. He likes to talk, which I don't mind, but I did feel bad because we bill hourly and talked for about 30 minutes.
Starting route to home.
Oh good, it didn't say my address. But yeah, it's heating consistently. It was cooling well for a while, so I'm confident that that's the issue. I know some people are gonna say that that's not the way that you should fix it, and I know it's not, but that's the cheapest route for the customer to go, because the amount of time we're gonna spend in labor vacuuming or recovering remaining refrigerant, then vacuuming the system down to recharge, I mean, not to find the leak, but to recharge from fresh weigh-in. We'd have to vacuum it down. You're never gonna pull the proper vacuum because it's in it's leaking. So you can't just, it doesn't make sense to do it that way. Really, the only way to fix it would be to find the leak, fix the leak, and that's it. But that's not something that the customer wanted to do right now, because it does get very expensive with finding the leak. That's labor hours. Sometimes it takes a while to find, and then fixing the leak, you know, whatever it may be, replacing the line set, you got the labor with that, cost of the line set, replacing the indoor unit, same, replacing the outdoor unit, same. But sometimes you can end up spending as much as he'll spend just to replace it all. So adding refrigerant was the way that he went. I advised against the sealant. Like I said, if anything, just we'll see how long this refrigerant lasts. It was 2 pounds, which I guess is half the charge, but headed home now. It is 3:20 p.m. I'm about 45-50 minutes away from my house. I'm probably gonna stop to eat, but that is it for work this year. Next time I come into work, it'll be 2024, so hopefully you enjoyed watching. Comment any advice or criticisms or feedback. Maybe in 2024 I'll post a video every day. We'll see.